You, yes you, the one watching this right now. Have you ever felt the universe speak to you in ways that shake you to your core? What if the deepest wisdom doesn't come wrapped in comfort or certainty, but through laughter, disruption, and the most unexpected of teachers? Thunder rolls across your path, and with it comes a message so powerful, it may turn everything you thought you knew upside down, ready to embrace the sacred foolishness of the Heyoka. The Thunder beings are calling you. Are you ready to answer? Thunder rolls across the prairie, and wisdom comes dressed in foolishness. This is the way of the Heyoka, the sacred contrarians of Native American tradition, whose medicine teaches us that sometimes we must walk backwards to move forward, laugh to understand sorrow, and play the fool to find the deepest wisdom. Have you ever noticed how the universe teaches not through gentle whispers, but through thunder? How the most profound insights often arrive wrapped in laughter, and the deepest healing comes through disruption. In the sacred traditions of the Lakota people, there exists a powerful and mysterious role that embodies this very paradox: the Heyoka, or sacred clown. Imagine walking into a sacred ceremony. The air is thick with prayer smoke. The drums are beating in solemn rhythm, and then a respected medicine person enters, walking backwards, wearing their clothes inside out, speaking in riddles and laughing during the most serious prayers. In the middle of a drought, they splash through invisible puddles. During times of plenty, they act as if starving. When others cry, they laugh. When others laugh, they weep. One might assume they've lost their mind, but in Native American traditions, these holy fools, these sacred contrarians, are among the most powerful healers and teachers. They are the Heyoka, the Thunder Dreamers, the backwards walkers, and their ancient medicine might be exactly what our modern world needs most. Let me share with you the stories of 5 extraordinary encounters that forever changed my understanding of the Heyoka path. These meetings, spanning from the sun-baked plains of South Dakota to the sterile corridors of modern hospitals, reveal how this ancient medicine continues to work its magic in our contemporary world. It was on a scorching summer day in South Dakota when I first encountered the truth of Heyoka medicine. The heat shimmered off the pavement like desert mirages, yet there stood Robert Standing Bear, though he insisted on being called Sitting Chicken, wrapped in a thick winter coat and wool hat, calmly eating soup with a fork and chuckling to himself. My first instinct was to keep my distance, assuming I was witnessing someone in distress. How wrong I was. A group of teenagers walked past, their faces buried in their phones, completely disconnected from the world around them. Without warning, Robert leaped to his feet and began an exaggerated pantomime of their behavior. He hunched over an imaginary phone, walking into polls, speaking in exaggerated social media abbreviations, his face a mask of comic absorption. The teenagers stopped, stared, and then something magical happened. They began to laugh, not just at him, but at themselves. In that moment, I witnessed ancient medicine at work in a modern context. Through his sacred foolishness, Robert had created a mirror that allowed these young people to see themselves clearly. You see, he told me later, while attempting to drink his coffee through a fork, the Thunder beings don't care about your social media or your smartphones. They care about your attention, where you place it, how you use it. Sometimes it takes a fool to show the wise ones their foolishness. My second encounter with Heyoka medicine came in the sterile corridors of a Seattle children's hospital. Sarah Running Cloud worked there as a pediatric nurse. But she was also a recognized Heyoka. She wore her scrubs backward and did her rounds walking sideways, transforming the somber hospital environment into a place where healing could arrive through laughter. People expect medicine workers to live in teepees and wear feathers, she told me, while drinking her chai tea with a fork. They don't expect us to be pediatric nurses who drive Priuses and live in apartments. Her laugh rumbled like distant thunder, unexpected and powerful in the fluorescent-lit hospital corridor. I watched in amazement as she worked with a young patient who hadn't smiled in weeks, a child battling terminal cancer. Sarah entered the room doing cartwheels, wearing her stethoscope as a headband, reading his chart upside down and backwards. By the end of her shift, the boy was teaching her even sillier things to do, and his pain levels had dropped significantly without additional medication. The third thunder of wisdom came during a devastating drought that had parched the land and spirits of a small reservation community. While others gathered in circles to pray for rain in traditional ways, Thomas Laughing-Storm took a different approach. He appeared one morning wearing a snorkel and flippers, pretending to swim through the dust-filled air. Some community members were outraged, seeing his actions as mockery of their suffering. But Thomas kept swimming through the dust, doing elaborate backstrokes across the cracked earth, occasionally stopping to shake imaginary water from his ears. The thunder beings, he explained to me later, while building a snowman in the summer heat. They remember when we knew how to play with them, before we became so serious about our ceremonies. Sometimes they want to see if we remember how to dance in the rain before they send it. 3 days later, the skies opened up with the most generous rainfall the region had seen in months. Thomas celebrated by wearing a sun hat and sunscreen in the downpour. The fourth encounter brought the medicine of sacred contrarianism into the corporate world, where Maria White Lightning worked as a consulting executive. She would attend board meetings wearing her suit jacket inside out, sitting under the conference table instead of at it, and presenting quarterly reports by reading them backwards. Initially, her Fortune 500 clients were bewildered, even angry, but her results were undeniable. These CEOs, she told me while conducting a presentation standing on her head, they're so serious about their profit margins that they forget the biggest innovations come from playing with impossible ideas. Under her guidance, companies began breaking through years of creative stagnation. Her methods might have seemed mad, but her results were pure medicine. One particularly memorable session saw her respond to a crisis meeting about plummeting sales by organizing an impromptu game of hide-and-seek throughout the corporate headquarters. When found crouching behind a potted plant in the lobby, she explained to the bewildered executives, "If you want to find your customers again, first you must remember what it's like to be found." The fifth thunder came through the digital waves of our modern world. James Running Joke found his calling as a Heyoka in the age of technology, creating viral videos where he would incorrectly use computers and smartphones in ways that made people both laugh and think. He would type by dancing on keyboards, hold serious Zoom meetings while hanging upside down, and code websites by starting with the footer and working backwards. The Thunder Beings speak through fiber optic cables now too, he explained, while pretending to eat his smartphone. Their lightning travels through our social networks. The sacred clown must walk backwards through whatever world they find themselves in. His videos of tech support by interpretive dance and coding by drumming became unexpected hits, making people laugh while subtly highlighting our often absurd relationship with technology. These 5 encounters taught me that Heyoka medicine isn't confined to ancient ceremonies or traditional settings. It adapts, evolves, and finds new ways to teach through divine foolishness. But to truly understand this sacred path, we must step back and look at its deeper roots, its historical context, and the profound spiritual tradition from which it emerges. The very word Heyoka carries layers of meaning that English translations struggle to capture. While often simplified as sacred clown or contrarian, elders explain that its true meaning is closer to one who has been turned around by the thunder beings. This turning around isn't just physical. It's a complete inversion of one's relationship with reality, a sacred disorientation that leads to profound reorientation. The earliest documented encounters between European explorers and Heyoka medicine workers reveal both fascination and confusion. In 1642, French Jesuit missionary Jacques Maurice wrote in his journal, "Today, I witnessed something that defies all Christian understanding. A respected elder of the tribe entered their sacred gathering, walking backwards, speaking their tongue in reverse order, causing both laughter and profound silence among his people. I could not understand it, yet I felt in my bones that I was witnessing something of great spiritual significance." Years later, in 1785, British explorer William Hawthorne observed something equally puzzling during a time of severe food shortage. The tribe's holy fool spent the evening hosting an imaginary feast, serving invisible abundance to all who would play along. Most curious was that those who participated in this apparent madness seemed to bear their hunger with greater ease than those who refused to join in the game. These early accounts hint at a sophisticated spiritual and psychological practice that modern science is only beginning to understand. The Heyoka tradition recognized centuries ago that sometimes the shortest path to healing isn't through confronting our pain directly, but through its opposite, through play, through laughter, through sacred foolishness. This wisdom found parallel expressions in other indigenous traditions across the Americas. The Pueblo peoples have their Koshare, the Navajo their Alchi, and the Apache their crazy spirit dancers. While each tradition is unique, they share a common understanding. Sometimes the most profound truths can only be approached backwards, and the deepest healing often comes wrapped in laughter. No one chooses to become a Heyoka. The thunder beings choose them. This calling comes through dreams and visions so powerful they turn the world upside down, leaving the chosen one forever changed. Modern Heyoka medicine carriers speak of this calling with a mix of reverence and humility, knowing it is both a blessing and a profound responsibility. Marie Standing Elk's calling came during a summer storm that shook the windows of her apartment in Minneapolis. The thunder beings didn't care that I was working on my master's thesis. She tells me, while carefully arranging her breakfast cereal in reverse alphabetical order. They came in a storm so powerful, it turned the world upside down. They showed me myself walking backwards through my life. When I woke up, I couldn't speak normally for 3 days. Everything came out in riddles and backwards talk. The medicine people recognized it as a Heyoka calling, but my thesis advisor was considerably less understanding. For John Running Water, the calling came during a modern vision quest, though not in the way he expected. I went out seeking traditional medicine, he shares, while conducting a serious business meeting from inside a cardboard box. I thought I would receive songs, maybe healing prayers. Instead, the thunder beings showed me how to see the world through the eyes of sacred foolishness. They turned everything I knew upside down. After that, I could only see truth by looking at things backwards. Sarah Laughing River's experience bridges the ancient and modern worlds. As a practicing psychotherapist, she received her calling through a series of dreams where she was teaching psychology lectures while standing on her head. The Thunder Beings have a sense of humor, she explains, while arranging her therapy office with all the furniture facing the walls. They showed me how mental health and sacred foolishness are two sides of the same medicine wheel. Now I help people heal by helping them find their own inner sacred clown. The price of refusing this calling is well documented in both historical records and contemporary accounts. David Standing Rock developed severe migraines that only ceased when he accepted his role as a sacred clown. Jennifer White Eagle experienced uncontrollable laughing fits in serious situations until she embraced her path. Michael Thunderchild found that technology would mysteriously malfunction around him. Computers would display text backwards. Phones would only play conversations in reverse, until he acknowledged his calling. The Thunder Beings aren't interested in your career plans or your 5-year goals, explains Elder Thomas Laughing Horse, while conducting a sacred ceremony in a business suit and clown shoes. They're interested in medicine, and sometimes the medicine that people need most is the permission to turn their world upside down. The healing methods of the Heyoka are as diverse as they are profound, operating through 4 primary channels: mirror medicine, shock medicine, reverse psychology, and sacred paradox. Each approach carries its own power, its own purpose, and its own peculiar wisdom. Mirror medicine works by reflecting back our behaviors and attitudes in ways that make them impossible to ignore. When Sarah Running Cloud encounters a particularly rigid doctor in her hospital work, she might follow them around mimicking their walk in an exaggerated way or repeat their instructions in a sing-song voice. It's not about mockery, she explains. It's about reflection. When people see themselves clearly, they have the choice to change. The effectiveness of this approach was dramatically demonstrated during a tense hospital board meeting about budget cuts. As administrators discussed reducing patient care hours, Sarah began to methodically cut her own scrubs into smaller and smaller pieces. By the time I was sitting there in scraps, she recalls, they suddenly understood the impact of their decisions in a way that no amount of logical argument could have conveyed. Shock medicine breaks through mental and emotional barriers by doing the unexpected. When Thomas Laughing Storm encountered a group of young people caught in cycles of addiction and despair, he didn't lecture them about recovery. Instead, he spent a week pretending to be addicted to air, dramatically shooting up oxygen and acting out increasingly absurd withdrawals when he couldn't breathe. Sometimes, he says, you have to shock people out of their patterns before they can see new possibilities. Reverse psychology in Heyoka tradition goes far deeper than simple contrary suggestions. During a severe economic downturn on the reservation, Maria White Lightning began giving away all her possessions, but in the most bureaucratic way possible, requiring people to fill out 17-page applications to receive a single pencil, holding committee meetings to decide the fate of a coffee mug, creating a complex organizational flowchart for the distribution of her socks. People thought I was mocking poverty, she explains while carefully filing paperwork about her breakfast plans. But I was showing them how our relationship with possession and scarcity had become absurd. By the end of the month, the community had created a new resource-sharing network with considerably less paperwork. Sacred Paradox teaches through the deliberate embrace of contradiction. James' running joke demonstrates this in his work with troubled teens, greeting their anger with inappropriate joy, meeting their depression with exaggerated enthusiasm, responding to their silence with eloquent mime performances. The Thunder Beings teach us that sometimes the only way past an emotion is through its opposite. He explains while sobbing hysterically through a comedy movie. When we embrace contradiction, we find balance. While the Heyoka tradition is uniquely Lakota, the medicine of sacred foolishness echoes across cultures and traditions worldwide. Like thunder rolling across different landscapes, each culture's holy fools carry similar medicine in different vessels. In the high mountains of Tibet, the Nyonpa, or holy madmen, have for centuries challenged rigid spiritual orthodoxy through divine foolishness. Consider the story of Drukpa Kunle, who taught profound dharma by singing bawdy songs in monasteries and challenging religious authorities to drinking contests. When asked why he behaved so outrageously, he replied, "Sometimes the highest wisdom wears the mask of foolishness." The Sufi tradition gives us the Malamatiya, holy fools who deliberately court society's disapproval to transcend ego attachment. There's the tale of the respected Sufi master, who upon gaining too many followers, began walking through the marketplace, dragging a dead fox on a leash, speaking to it as if it were alive. When his students left in embarrassment, he smiled and said, "Now we can begin the real teaching." In medieval European courts, the fool or jester was often the only one who could speak truth to power. Wearing their motley clothes and cap of bells, they delivered crucial criticism wrapped in jest. One story tells of a court jester who, during a time of severe famine, presented the king with an elaborate feast made entirely of mud and stones. When the king grew angry, the jester simply said, "This is what your people eat, your majesty." African trickster traditions teach wisdom through characters like Anansi the spider, who turns a social order upside down to reveal deeper truths. These stories don't just entertain, they carry ancient medicine about the power of sacred disruption to bring about necessary change. In our contemporary world, the medicine of the Heyoka finds new expressions, adapting like water to fill whatever vessel it encounters. Consider the story of Dr. Rachel Thunder Hart, a psychiatrist who integrates sacred clowning into her clinical practice. One day, she tells me while conducting therapy sessions walking backwards on a treadmill, I had a patient who was trapped in severe depression. Instead of the usual therapeutic approach, I began mirroring his depression in increasingly exaggerated ways. When he spoke of darkness, I drew the blinds. When he mentioned feeling heavy, I collapsed dramatically under the weight of my coffee cup. Eventually, he started laughing, not because his depression was funny, but because he could finally see it from the outside. In corporate settings, the medicine appears through what some call organizational contrarians, people who challenge groupthink through strategic foolishness. Sarah Running Cloud, after her success in pediatric nursing, began consulting for tech companies. She would attend strategy meetings dressed as different emojis, conduct serious budget discussions while hula hooping, and require executives to present their quarterly reports in interpretive dance. The Thunder Beings don't care about your profit margins, she explains while reviewing spreadsheets through a kaleidoscope. They care about your ability to see beyond your own limitations. Sometimes the most innovative solutions come when we allow ourselves to be foolish. Even in education, the medicine finds its way. James Laughing Storm developed a program called Backwards Learning, where students teach teachers. Tests come at the beginning of courses rather than the end, and mistakes are celebrated more enthusiastically than correct answers. We've forgotten how to learn through play. he says while teaching advanced calculus through puppet shows. The Thunder Beings remind us that sometimes understanding comes faster when we approach it backwards. How do we integrate this ancient wisdom into our modern lives? The answer, appropriately enough, often comes through playing with the question itself. Here are experiences from those walking the path. Maria White Lightning suggests starting each day by doing something backwards. Wear your clothes inside out. Eat dessert for breakfast. Greet people with goodbye. It's not about being silly. It's about breaking patterns to see what lies beneath them. John Running Water recommends what he calls sacred foolishness practice. Once a day, do something that makes no sense. Calculate your taxes using interpretive dance. Hold serious phone conversations while standing on your head. Let yourself be a divine fool, even for just 5 minutes. Sarah Laughing River teaches her therapy clients emotional reversals. When you're sad, laugh. When you're angry, speak in whispers. When you're confused, pretend to be all-knowing. It's not about denying your feelings. It's about finding freedom in their opposite. The medicine shows up differently for everyone. For some, it might mean telling jokes at funerals or crying at weddings. For others, it could be teaching through intentional mistakes or finding wisdom by playing the fool. The key is remembering that sometimes the fastest way forward is backwards, and the deepest wisdom often wears the mask of foolishness. As my friend Sitting Chicken would say, and yes, I'm going to tell you this backwards, just as he would, don't end your journey of understanding here. Don't close your mind to new perspectives. And above all, don't forget to laugh when the Thunder Beings dance. In these serious times, when the world seems to be turning upside down on its own, maybe we need the medicine of the sacred clowns more than ever. Maybe we need to remember that sometimes the most profound wisdom comes wrapped in foolishness, and the most powerful healing comes with a dose of holy laughter. Remember, as the Heyoka teach us, in a world that's lost its way, the ones walking backwards might be the only ones going in the right direction. The Thunder Beings continue to call their sacred clowns, and in their divine foolishness, we might find exactly the medicine our modern world needs. So the next time you hear thunder, consider what patterns in your life might need to be turned upside down. And don't be surprised if your healing comes wearing a backwards coat in summer, or your greatest teacher appears drinking tea with a fork. Sometimes the most serious medicine arrives disguised as laughter, and the deepest wisdom speaks in riddles. After all, as Thomas Laughing-Storm reminds us while building snowmen in summer heat, the Thunder Beings don't care about your plans. They care about your willingness to dance in the rain before it falls. So, mystics and chosen ones, the next time thunder echoes through the sky, remember that it may be calling you to walk a different path. What if the medicine you seek lies in turning your life upside down, in laughing, playing, and embracing the unexpected? The Heyoka remind us that true healing often wears a mask of foolishness, and that wisdom speaks not in commands but in riddles. Are you ready to see life through the eyes of the sacred fool? Step forward, embrace the paradox, and dare to dance with the Thunder Beings themselves. If you feel the call, don't hold back. Join us on this journey, and let's rewrite the rules together. Stay lit